Welcome back to Mindkind Podcasts. This is Dr. Jo North returning to our platform. Mindkind continues to be a reflective space for anyone who wants to stay sane in our demanding world. Our intention is to inspire, motivate, and inform people of all ages interested in mental health and well-being. I'll be drawing on 35 years of practice as a psychotherapist, and we'll be looking at research and therapy along the way and talking with other experts in the field so we can draw on their skill. Nothing in this podcast is intended to cause you shock or surprise. If you think a subject is going to cause any triggering to any conditions that you have, please don't listen and just choose another podcast of interest. If you happen to be in a podcast and something in there triggers some kind of anxiety or stress for you, please switch off straight away and contact your mental health professional. If something affects the mind, we'll be talking about it. So let's get on with today's podcast. Hello, it's Jo back in the chair and talking about 3 things I have learned this week through my time-related eating. And I'm so excited to share them with you. Tiny, tiny details of life that can make a big difference. And in Foodsane, I'm all about encouraging people to notice some of the habits and behaviors in which they engage that they might ordinarily just pass over. And then get a hold of those pieces of behavior that you want to change and make tiny, tiny shifts, not pushing yourself, not being unkind, being compassionate towards yourself, and then enjoying the bigger picture of your life. Because there is no doubt that the tiny, tiny details of food are the smaller picture, but they all play into the bigger picture of your overall health, your overall well-being, your overall enjoyment of life, and your overall capability and learning. So today, the clocks in the UK go forward an hour. And what that means is that you wake up and you're an hour behind already. And I noted to myself today that was not a great start to the day. But on the other hand, it does get lighter earlier. So that's interesting, but I'm very mindful of circadian rhythms and how we kind of feel out of joint when things happen like that. And I noticed that the research shows from the World Health Organization that when the clocks change, there are more car accidents. And that is because people are slightly out of sync with their circadian self. So I hope nobody's going to be that out of sync with themselves. But I noticed a mood. And I noticed also that I could manage it really well. And I didn't manage it through food. And that's what we're all about here. So, learning this week, 3 things. One is that your body learns to protect you as you develop these behaviors, and the memory of these behaviors takes place and embeds itself in mind and body. This week, I've had 2 examples where my body remembers the story, but my brain doesn't, which I will explain to you. So one was in the evening. Now, I don't eat food in the evenings as a general rule, unless there's a party going on or someone invites me to dinner or something like that. You know, I will socialize. But on the whole, my eating timeframes end at about, certainly by 4 o'clock in the afternoon, generally by about 2 o'clock. And I'm pretty good at not eating from then onwards. And I notice more and more the benefits of clearing out my system, going to bed with a stomach that's empty and ready to clear up, the rest of my body getting into action and free to clear up rather than just digesting food, which takes about 5 hours. I have recorded in my diary that every now and then I do have a hiccup with that, especially if I haven't eaten enough during the day and I really am overwhelmingly hungry. But on this particular occasion, I wasn't overwhelmingly hungry. I just told myself I wanted to eat some of what I was doing. And it was 6 o'clock. And my hunger bleeps at 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock, just because that's a very, very old fashioned memory of eating times in childhood. I don't actually need to. I'd had plenty of food during the day, but I was putting out my husband's dinner and I thought, no, I want some of that. And my absolutely, my stomach said no. I do not. I absolutely have done with eating. My leptin levels were obviously in place and was saying, we're full, we're satiated, we're done. My brain said no. I'm feeling really rebellious, and I want some of that. So I did have a very, very small amount of. I was doing risotto for David. I had literally a teaspoon to taste it. And, it didn't coalesce well. My stomach said, I told you I didn't want that. And my rebellious self was saying, yeah, but, I'm having that today. And yeah, never mind. I had to deal with the consequences, didn't I? It was only a teaspoon of food, but my stomach was so used to the discipline of not eating. But the beauty of that is that the body learns this behavior and will guide you. So your body learns to protect you from your own, in this case, as it's me I'm talking about, I can use the word, my own stupidity and rebelliousness. Yeah. And also, I mean, my brain's usually really disciplined on saying, no, it's not really eating time. But it wasn't that day. And I don't know what that was all about. I just occasionally get into my rebellious self and have to do these things. But it was very, very striking. Now, you'd think, very, very big piece of learning, tiny bit of discomfort there. But next day, you'd think, oh, my brain would have got that, wouldn't you? But no, the next day I did the very, very same thing. David eats at 6 because that's how he likes to eat food. I was getting his food. Normally, I do not have to worry about that. I don't even think of putting it in my mouth. But the rebellious streak was still there. I was grating cheese, had to have some. In it went. And same thing happened. Surprise, surprise. The next night, I didn't need to do that. The learning had taken place. But the remarkable thing is that my stomach was sort of saying, I did actually tell you. And my stomach does do that. Now, for those of you that are new to time related eating, you might not have that learning memory in place. The whole body system might not have got it, but you will get it. You absolutely will. And even if you stick with time related eating, even if it's in a slightly awkward or clumsy way and you make mistakes, it doesn't matter. Just get back into the pattern and your body will find that for you. I think the point is that on both of these evenings, my brain pushed for food at this time, but my stomach said a clear and firm no. And so when I tried just a small amount, it really was not wanted. After 2 years of time related eating, my body has developed its own wisdom and its very own new timing that overrides some very old patterns for me. And my body knows when it's ready to eat. Now, if that had been, say, 10 o'clock in the morning, after a 19-hour fast, my body says, I am having the food, and it's quite a different experience. So it's not about restriction at those times of not eating. It's about trust that your body will have had enough and that it slowly over time will build up that patterning. And I think that this new patterning in the system is one of the most powerful things that time related eating on the raft, right amount, right food, right time can offer. And the way that it allows leptin to get louder and louder about saying, I'm full, I'm done. So leptin in my body was shouting, don't you dare eat that food. But I did it anyway. Leptin does allow us that satiation and that comfortable feeling. So that was my learning. And amazing. I'm kind of a little bit ashamed to admit that I do completely do that sometimes. But here's me being human, and I got it now. If there are any new Foodsane members listening, I just want to say a big welcome to the Foodsane community. If the idea of eating windows, time-related eating and the raft are all new to you, there is a handy quick start guide that will take you through the essentials of time-related eating and what it means to be on the raft. Just log in to your members area and the quick start guide is at the top there. It's only £10 a month to be a member of this community. Members also have access to the Foodsane training, my daily diary, free chapters of the Foodsane book, a handy eating window tracker to track your daily eating window and compare that with your mood, the option to send me your questions, a monthly meeting with me online and other community members, and a space where we can chat, share, and support each other. If you're not yet a member, you can still find a lot of information on the website, foodsane.co.uk. You can subscribe to my mailing list for free to get the regular newsletters. And of course, my podcasts are out there too. And you will find lots of information about time-related eating in the podcasts. So the next piece of learning is about the thoughts that run through the mind. And I help people make a very clear distinction between brain hunger and stomach hunger. And in many ways, this fits very nicely with the last piece of learning. And here is a really, really good example of brain hunger. So the piece that I was just telling you about is very much about timing and memory. But this one is about food-provoking thoughts. So David and I last week, we were due to go out for fish and chips with our friends. And they very kindly were eating quite early for them because they're trying to fit around me. Well, early for them, 6:30. That, as you can imagine, that's quite late for me, but never mind. I really wanted A, to see my friends, B, to do something social with them, C, we've got a brilliant fish and chip shop in our town called the Great British Fish and Chip Takeaway. It's gorgeous. Their food is just wonderful. And for those of you who aren't in Britain right now, you know, fish and chips is a big thing in this country and we do that food very deliciously. So at 10 o'clock in the morning, I was going through my day and I was thinking about the fish and chips, and the chips just came into my head. I think I hadn't had my breakfast, so I might have been a bit hungry. But the fact of the matter is that that was a different kind of hunger. I needed to eat. But the picture of their chips came into my head. Now, in the UK, we're not talking French fries, we're not talking skinny chips, we're talking chunky, massive chips cooked in very deep fat. I mean, they are deliciously oily and deliciously golden and very, very mushy inside. It's a bit like eating a potato, really. Well, I just couldn't get the thought out of my head. And this shows what an obsessive brain I have, what a repetitive brain I have. Yeah, that's me. But secondly, the thought was there. Now, I got on with my breakfast and soon the thought of the fish and chips went away. But I noticed how hungry that thought made me and the picture made me. I think that happens a lot. We get these cravings and we bring them to mind more and more. And we talk ourselves into being hungry. If anyone had walked through the door with a box of fish and chips at that time, I would have had to have eaten them because my brain was compelled, triggering all sorts of hormonal processes in my body that just said, well, we need to eat now then, don't we? It just proved very strongly to me again, and I learn that every day, that what we put in our mouths is very much related to a thought that is in our head. Also, to manage hunger is extremely wise indeed. And one of the things that I do constantly is say to myself, if you are really hungry and you are picking away at food, you really do need to eat properly and deal with your hunger and then move on. And that's quite a new behaviour for me as well, in that I will say, no, look, if you're picking at chocolate or you're picking at nuts, you are clearly hungry. Now eat some food. And also one of the things that I'm constantly noticing, that the difference between me at my lightest and not worrying about my weight and food noise going out of the window is the me that walks into the office with a huge sack of food every day and literally will be fully prepared to eat well and properly. And that includes proteins and grains and legumes and fruit and a treat if I want it. That's the big difference. And so we are mindful in time-related eating, and we are mindful in the Foodsane group about looking after ourselves so well that we make sure we're going to get the food that we need. It's going to be true that if you let yourself get really hungry and you're in the middle of nowhere and someone comes along with something, you will eat it just because you are hungry, and that could ruin your time frame. I find it, for example, if say I hadn't eaten properly and then I rush in and get a sticky bun or something, which is extremely rare, so rare, I don't even know why I'm using that as an example. But it is quite a good example because, all that happens with a sticky, sugary bun is that a few hours later, I'm still hungry because it literally provokes more hunger because, it's full of that sort of kind of food that's going to do that. So the thing is this, the learning. Number two, it's what's in your head that runs your hunger. And you can be very, very good to yourself by just noticing more. Okay, in therapy, as you know, my profession is in psychotherapy and has been for over 40 years. And we know about thoughts. We know that thoughts go through our mind and we don't even notice them. Cognitive behavioral therapy is very popular these days. It's not for everybody. And it's quite left behind by the new wave of mindfulness therapies that are emerging. But there is no doubt that our cognitions do run us. And most times when I sit with people, we're just talking about what thoughts actually are going through your mind about this. And if you find there's a lot of food thoughts, then it really is time to examine why that is, what's provoking that, and getting it under control. And learning number three this week, tiny boosts to your system can make a big difference to how you feel and therefore how you eat. And particularly, tiny boosts can help regulate your nervous system. And it's surprising the impact that you can make through regular practice of different behaviors. So, one of the things that I'm constantly coming back to in my Foodsane journey, and as I encourage others in our Foodsane community, is that you can take small actions that increase hormones in the body that are incredibly favorable, that will decrease the likelihood of you overeating. And I'm not talking about snacking all the time. I'm talking about snacking on other behaviors, things like music, stretching, and very, very simple, deliberate behaviors, like, for example, a smile for yourself and perhaps going and getting a massage or some reflexology. I know not everyone's got money to spend on those things, but perhaps getting someone to massage your shoulders or getting one. You can get those massages that will help with the tension in your muscles. You can get a hand massager or a shoulder hook or something like that. It made me remember something about my mother's life and about childhood, but really it's a memory about regulation. Now, this, bless her, as most of you will know from reading my diaries, we lost her in December and went to her funeral in January. And that was a very complicated matter for me because it was a complicated relationship. It wasn't easy. But I'm increasingly remembering that there were favourable things about my mother and jolly good quality experiences and strengths. And it's nice to be in that position and coming through on that. But one of the more positive memories was when she used to refer to her golden moments. Now, bearing in mind she had 4 children and her life wasn't easy, and she did smoke for her golden moments, but a golden moment meant that she was sitting down and she was taking a breather and she was letting her mind relax. And actually, in that regard, that was pretty skilled of her to know that she had to do that. And I do recall she would certainly do that once or twice a day. And I suppose, that's actually what I'm doing when I increase the amount of time that I take out from incredibly hard, very intense work and say, I'm just having a quiet moment or a golden moment. And that is nothing to do with food snacking. It is everything to do with relaxation, snacking, or just rest snacking. And as you will recall, I'm very big on people resting, even young people who are listening to this. It's not an old person thing. I think it's a young person thing. Let yourself relax for 5 minutes. And that does mean putting that little square oblong thing in your hand that you're always looking at down and giving your brain a rest. So taking a break from those things. And this week, I did particularly well at snacking on everything other than food. So I was putting my feet up on the settee and just letting my body rest. I was listening to some lovely music on Spotify, and particularly 70s tracks, which are kind of my youthful era. And it's quite fun to listen to music of that era. Puts me in lots of happy memories. But actually, you don't have to be old to enjoy music from the 70s. But whatever, music today is beautiful. And all of these lovely singers that we have and beautiful groups singing and things like that, all very good. So dancing like nobody's watching. And I think that's probably a good job. I do actually pull the blinds in my office because I'm always thoughtful. What if a client came and to the window and saw me dancing to 70s music? I just think they'd run away and find another therapist. So I do pull the blinds when I do that. And not forgetting the dopamine hit of a smile to myself. How I literally make myself smile just as I might make myself stretch my legs or do a few press ups to exercise my arm muscles. I had a lovely massage this week with a very skilled young lady called Joy, who was a joy, absolutely brilliant at her massage. And I'm going to let that happen more often. And really, what's going on? I'm letting go of my thoughts, unless there's something really urgent, sit down and let go of those. You must be doing this thoughts and you must be doing that. Because let me tell you that won't get better without practice. Your mind is a muscle and it will get stronger and stronger at you should, you get this done, get this. You will get worse. I don't think it gets any easier as the years go by either. So these little rests aren't luxuries, whatever age you are. These are absolute necessities. They are signals to our nervous system that all is well and that the world is safe and that you can luxuriate in a rest. And the urge for food loses its grip and falls into the background because most of the time we need food when we're hungry. And that's very nice. Okay, so watch out because I've just done something really big on the issue of rest. And I don't think I've done this for probably the last 30 years of work. I have crossed out a month in my diary, the month of April, when I will not be working. And I don't know how that's going to go because my brain is used to very hard work. And sometimes I can get into a right state and I will keep you posted on that. Whatever happens, I know I won't be eating to resolve that state. But I want to enjoy myself. I want to relax a bit and I want to let my mind wander into areas where I want to develop my thinking, as always around food. I want to finish off some of the books I'm reading. I've got a training to do on psychonutrition, which I'm really, really interested in. So, already I'm lining stuff up. Oh dear, that's me. But it's stuff I love and stuff I'm interested in and stuff that promotes my work. So that's exciting. Watch this space because I might be turning into a mad woman over the next month. 3 things I've learned this week. The body learns the pattern, the new pattern, and it will hold you in there. The longer you keep it up, the better it gets. So that's a great piece of learning. Learning number 2, it's what is in your head that runs your hunger. Just remember the chips that were going through my head that made me want to eat straight away. Just think of the chips. Well, don't actually, not for too long anyway. But what is in your head pretty well will dictate what you do. And just check that out. Learn the difference between hunger provoked by your thinking or your memories, or the body saying, I am hungry, so you better feed me. And learning number 3, which is going to be ongoing, that tiny boosts make a big difference to your nervous system. And you can do that every day. Little dopamine boosts, little serotonin boosts, little oxytocin boosts, little periods of rest, stretch, smile, put some hand cream on your hands. It does not have to be big, it doesn't have to cost money, but it's these tiny, tiny snippets of behavior that can make such a fantastic difference. And that's me for this week. Lovely to tell you all about my learning. Get onto the Foodsane website and talk to us. Come and join us and tell us all about your learning and also ask questions about anything you're struggling with. And I'll look forward to talking with you next week. Take good care. Bye now.
Thank you for listening. Check out the next episode on our platform. Don't forget, I'm a doctor of psychotherapy, not medicine or clinical psychology. My expertise lies in the field of applied psychology through psychotherapeutic models of practice. This podcast is not intended for diagnosis or treatment of any kind. If you are concerned about your mental health, do consult your doctor, who will guide you. If you are ever in a mental health crisis within the UK, dial 999. In all other parts of the world, check your mental health facilities or turn to someone who will support you.